Hi, I'm Nile Rivers, and I have just invented a brand new Magic the Gathering micro format called Cait's Cage Match. This is a fun and fast-paced format with a lot of complexity to it. Cait's Cage Match is a two-player game where both players have the exact same 13-card deck. We'll get to those in a minute, but if you want to check them out, there is a link to the deck list below. In addition to these 13 cards, both players also start with a copy of Cait, Cage Brawler on the field. Now, if you don't know Cait already, she is a red and green legendary creature released in the Fallout set. She is a 1/1 and she has indestructible as long as it is your turn. But what's really interesting about Cait and what makes the whole game sort of work is that when she attacks, both players draw and discard a card. If the attacker discards a card with the highest or tied for highest mana value, they get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on their Cait. All right, let's talk about the rest of the deck. So excluding Cait, each deck has 13 cards in it. And while there is no way to generate mana in these 13 cards, all of them are technically legally castable. The first step to being able to cast our spells comes in the form of a few free creatures. These are Ornithopter, Blazing Rootwalla, and Basking Rootwalla. Now Ornithopter is free obviously because it costs 0 mana. But the two Rootwallas are free because they have Madness 0. If you aren't familiar with the Madness mechanic, it says if you were to discard this card, you can instead cast it for its mana cost. So this means when we attack with our Cait and we draw and then have to discard a card, if we discard one of our Rootwallas, because they have Madness 0, we can cast them for 0 mana. So these are both two free creatures we can get onto the battlefield. So aside from the 3 free creatures, almost every other spell in the deck has Convoke. If you aren't familiar with the Convoke mechanic, it says your creatures can help cast this spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell can pay for either 1 colorless mana or 1 mana of that creature's color. So step 1, we get our free creatures onto the battlefield. Step 2, we start convoking out bigger and bigger spells. The more creatures you have on the battlefield, the bigger spells you can play. So you can kind of think of all of your creatures as also being your land. The convoke spells in the deck just get bigger and bigger incrementally, all the way up to a 10 mana convoke spell called Impervious Greatworm, which yes is also technically castable. A couple of very interesting and exciting cards in the deck are Triplicate Spirits, which is a 6 mana convoke spell, which allows us to put 3 1/1 white flying creature tokens onto the battlefield. Also Shivan Branchburner, which is a 7 mana 4/4 flying dragon with haste. The haste is very relevant and helps close out games quickly. Now the last card in the deck is not a convoke spell and it's not a free creature, but it is also castable. And if you're a fan of the Pauper format of Magic, you are already very well familiar with this card. The name of it is Prismatic Strand. It is a white instant that says prevent all damage that sources of the color of your choice would deal this turn. Prismatic Strands costs 3 mana and doesn't have Madness or Convoke, but we are able to cast it, just not from our hand. This is because it has something called Flashback. If you aren't familiar with Flashback, it is an ability some cards have where you are able to cast them from your graveyard for an alternative cost. Once you do this, you exile the card, so you only get to do it once, but it is very powerful. The cost to flash back Prismatic Strands is tap 1 untapped white creature you control. So we don't actually have to spend any mana on it, we just have to get a white creature onto the battlefield. And we can do this with a card called Sprouting Renewal, which is a 3 mana green spell which has Convoke and puts a 2/2 white and green elf knight creature onto the battlefield. So that's pretty much the deck. 3 creatures, Convoke spells, and 1 fog. Now that you understand the cards within the Cait deck, playing is very simple. You both start with a Cait Cage Brawler on the field. It is very important to note here that Cait is considered having already been on the battlefield when the game starts, so she's not affected by summoning sickness and you can attack with her the very first turn. At the start of the game, you will both shuffle your decks and you will draw a hand of 5 cards. There are no mulligans in Cait's Cage Match, unless you want to, I'm not your mom. You both start with 20 life and running out of cards in your deck does not cause you to lose the game. Other than that, it is just regular Magic. You attack each other, you try to get each other's life to 0. That's it, that's the game. You just play it and try to beat each other up. It's real easy to get started, but also has a lot of very complex lines that I think leads to a lot of very interesting strategy when playing a game of Caits. I mostly designed this game because I saw the card Cait Cage Brawler and I just thought it was really cool. I like making silly little games and micro formats, and Cait inspired me to do exactly that. I also specifically wanted to design a game that was quick and fast-paced enough that I could play it with my friends between rounds of Magic at a tournament. And I've already done this a lot with this game. I've brought it with me to events, I've played with people, I've taught people how to play. It's really fun. My favorite moment is when people are playing it for the first time and they'll be sitting there and like halfway into their first game, they'll go like, oh man, there's a lot more strategy to this than I thought. I love seeing that like click for them and them to start appreciating the depth to the game, where it looks very simple on the surface. I have enjoyed playing Cait so much that I actually commissioned custom art by my friend Grimcorp for custom boxes, which I have right here. And I think they turned out so good. I mean, they are just gorgeous. They have this cool little magnet that closes. It's great, I love it. I ordered 50 of these boxes, and I also ordered 50 copies of all of the cards that you need to make a full box of Caits, so 2 decks go in a box, which does mean that I bought 300 spirit tokens. I've put a bunch of these together. I'm gonna bring them with me to conventions and big Magic tournaments and stuff and sell them to anybody who is interested in them. But you can also just go get the cards yourself and start playing it with your friends and your local play group. Please let me know if you do. I would love to hear about you introducing your friends to this game. I love it so much. I've had so much fun with it. I hope you do too. Please let me know if you do. Yeah, I'm just really proud of it and happy with how it ended up. Anyways, that's the video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, huge thank you to everyone subscribed to my Patreon, which you can find a link to down below. Everyone on Patreon gets to watch these videos early. Also, just huge thank you to everyone subscribed on here who likes these videos, comments. All of that means a whole lot to me. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Please play my silly little game. Bye.